And welcome to the semifinals of Grand Prix Minneapolis. Maria Bartholdi here in the booth, joined by Melissa DeTora, Steve Locke on the left side of your screen playing Mono Black Zombies versus Matt Sikkink Johnson on Ramunap Red. Players just about ready to kick things off here. Ramunap Red, of course, the deck of the Pro Tour versus Mono Black Zombies, the deck designed to beat it.
So Steve Locke was first seed after the Swiss rounds, which means he gets to go first, which is huge. You definitely want to be going first against Red.
Kicking things off with a Dread Wanderer as well. If you want to go first, you want to play a 1-drop.
Of course, and the deck plays 8 of them. And if you don't have one of those cards and you have Fatal Push, then you're golden. All of the 1-drops.
Relentless Dead is the follow-up here for Steve. No turn 1 play for Matt.
Wow, no turn 1 play for Matt. That's huge. So he's already behind.
A Braid will take care of the Relentless Dead while shields are down. There, a look at Relentless Dead, which does have menace. Lord of the Accursed coming down for Steve Locke.
Super aggressive draw from Steve.
Absolutely.
And Matt has, looks like a very land-heavy hand. I saw 2 Scorch Runes in his hand. Looks like he has a Kari Zev, which is not very effective against 3-power things.
Just had to pass a turn back and use another Braid here on a Lord of the Accursed. Still getting beat down, though, by this Dread Wanderer.
So another card that's really strong against red decks, things with 4 toughness. And this Diagraph Colossus that Steve is holding looks like it's going to come down as a 4/4.
Yeah, this is something to think about, too. Like, I mean, you have to remove these threats from the zombie deck, but once you play a Diagraph Colossus, what you've removed kind of comes back to haunt you.
Yeah, because it's zombies.
So much flavor. All right, Diagraph Colossus it is for Steve Locke, coming in with an additional 2 counters, making it a 4/4. Yeah, Sunscorched Desert here for Matt.
Oh, here comes a sweet one. Yes, Collective Defiance, yep. So one of the few cards that can deal with a 4/4.
Collective Defiance.
Not all the lists play it, but it's definitely a strong card. For 4 mana, you can kill a creature and hit your opponent for 3. For another mana, if you really, like, if your hand is bad, you can just pitch your hand and draw a new hand.
Wow, nothing but replies here from Matt. Incendiary Flow. And here's that Kari Zev we talked about earlier.
I was right. Now Steve no longer has good attacks.
Yeah, you just take a look at Matt's graveyard. A Braid, Collective Defiance, Incendiary Flow. Just answer after answer for what Steve is doing, which is kind of funny because the red deck is the one that's used to playing the threats.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. Since the black deck is the more aggressive deck in the matchup, the black deck is the beatdown, and the red deck is playing the control role here.
Is that the role that you want just starting out when you begin the game, knowing that I'm probably going to be on the defensive here versus zombies?
Well, I mean, not necessarily. Like, if you know that you're the control, you can play accordingly, right? If you don't know, like, how to approach the matchup and you're just like, oh, I'm red, I want to beat down.
All right, here we go. Hazaret for Matt Sikkink Johnson coming along into the fray as he is heck bent, 1 card in hand. Kari Zev getting into the red zone along with Ragavan as well. We'll see if Steve has the grasp.
Yeah, he really needs it. But
I believe he has a Liliana's Mastery in hand and 1 other unknown card.
Yeah, looks like he had nothing here.
All right, Matt empties his hand there. Falkenroth Gorger.
Even this Liliana's Mastery is not going to do very much. He has to chump block a Hazaret token, which means he can't block Kari Zev because it has menace.
There's a look at Hazaret the Fervent, one of the format-defining cards from the last Pro Tour. Really hard to deal with, but as you mentioned when we opened up this round, Grasp of Darkness, one of the cards that can deal with Hazaret.
Yeah, there are not many cards in this format that can deal with Hazaret, at least cards that are seeing a lot of standard play, but Grasp is one of them.
All right, Liliana's Mastery will make 2 zombies here for Steve and has to pass back. So his days of being the beatdown kind of put on hold here.
Yeah, Matt navigated this game really well, playing the control role, kill all the early threats, and then just start playing defensive creatures like Kari Zev, which is, 1/3 is pretty good against a 2/1.
No Ramunap ruins in play yet, but 2 Sun-Scorched Deserts do threaten later damage if he is able to draw one. Steve Locke on 7.
Yeah, and now every card in hand represents 2 damage thanks to Hazoret. So even if he draws a mountain or something, just
throw it.
Pitch that thing.
Matt here kind of going into the tank, deciding if he wants to hang back or swing in.
So this means he must have drawn something, right?
Yeah. Hazoret comes in. Dread Wanderer will chump.
Wow, what did he draw? He just passed the turn?
Another removal spell?
Maybe he's just planning on pitching it for 2 damage. It could have been a land or something, and he just doesn't really feel the need to do it right now.
Another Liliana's Mastery in hand for Steve Locke.
That was a great draw. Red has no way of dealing with enchantments. Dark Salvation.
All right, Dark Salvation here would create another 2 zombies. Soulscar Mage pitched to do 2 to Steve's face.
Another very real answer to Hazoret.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal there.
You need a board to make it work, which can be difficult against red sometimes. But if you have the board and the mana, then definitely a very good answer for Hazoret.
Yeah, got the job done here in this case, and Steve desperately needed an answer.
This game has been very back and forth.
Oh, yes, it has.
Steve was just in the driver's seat to begin with, then Matt stabilized and came back, and then a very well-timed Dark Salvation turned the corner for Steve.
What does Matt want to draw here? Another Hazoret?
Yeah, I think the only thing he can really draw here is Hazoret. He could draw Burn Spell. He could draw Burn Spell, Ramunap or something. He has draws. He's not dead yet.
Steve Locke currently on 5. Definitely a number red players like to see for their opponent's life total.
Do they like to see 5, though, or do they like to see 2?
0.
I mean, 2 is pretty good.
Yeah, 2 is pretty good. I guess 5 is better than 20. All right, Kari Zev is going to fall as well to another Dark Salvation. See what Matt drew here.
Even if he draws something like Hazoret, that's not even really doing a whole lot. It has to sit back on defense.
Yeah, so does Earthshaker Kenra, which is definitely not where that Kenra wants to be.
Oh, wow, yeah. So, yeah, if you have a 2-1 for 2 on defense, yeah, you are not looking good. Goblin Piker.
Steve taking a look through Matt's graveyard there. There's a second Liliana's Mastery.
Wow. So these zombies are 4/4s?
These zombies are huge.
Very over to me.
Yeah. Matt definitely had a chance to take the game back, but a Dark Salvation really swung the game back in Steve's favor here. In come 3 of his zombies, all 4/4s.
Yeah, this is a lethal attack, so he has to at least chump with 1 creature, and then he has 0 top decks. Let's take a look at the list and see if he has any ways to deal 5 damage. Yeah, there's no single card he can top deck here.
Yep, and Matt just scoops him on up the first game of this semifinal match, going to Steve Locke and his zombie horde. And like we said, it is going to be a bit of an uphill battle for Matt versus zombies, which is built specifically to defeat it. Ramunap Red.
So looking at sideboards, Matt can bring in Aethersphere Harvester. Ooh, here's a sweet one.
What?
Sweltering Suns.
Ooh, Sweltering Suns. That'll kill some zombies.
That's a great one for this matchup. And he's probably also going to bring in his Glory Bringers.
Does Mono Black Zombies have any tools to deal with something like an Aethersphere Harvester?
Not really. So we were talking about this earlier. Vehicles are really good against black because their removal is Fatal Push, Grasp of Darkness for instant removal.
Right.
So if you have a vehicle that has 5 toughness, like Sky Sovereign or Aethersphere Harvester, you don't really have any good ways to beat it. There's murder.
All right, everybody, we've heard it. We've heard it this weekend from Melissa. Start playing Murder.
Okay, so interesting thing.
Still a card.
Steve Locke has a copy of Murder in his sideboard.
Does he really?
He has 1 copy of Murder. He figured it out. He said, I cannot beat a Sky Sovereign. I need a Murder.
Do you think it's something he brings in?
I don't think so. I mean, they look at each other's list, right? So,
yeah.
So he looks at the list and he sees 1 copy of Aethersphere Harvester. I don't think you bring it in for that. It's way less of a threat than something like Sky Sovereign. If you had Sky Sovereigns, then yes, right?
Right.
But I wouldn't bring it in for 1 Aethersphere Harvester. It's way too slow.
There you can see in front of Matt and Steve deck lists and sideboards of their opponents, which is a benefit when you're in the top 8.
Absolutely. Steve also has an additional Kalitas in his sideboard and a 4th Grasp of Darkness.
Wow.
He also has 2 Liliana the Last Hope, which is really good against
very good
1 toughness creatures.
An update from our B table. Ray Huang, Mardu Vehicles up a game over Corey Baumeister on green-black. If you were watching green-black versus Mardu Vehicles, which deck do you give it to?
I think Mardu Vehicles, because they just have a very wide mix of threats. Like, they have planeswalkers, vehicles, and creatures.
Sure.
And black-green is effective of dealing with creatures, but not necessarily the other cards. Like, they could have a well-timed grasp for a Heart of Kiran or something, but like, they just need specific answers against all of the threats. So, like, you need Never Return for the Gideon, and you need Grasp of Darkness for the Heart of Kiran. You know, and then after that, you still have the Toolcraft Exemplar and all their other creatures to deal with. So, overall, it's just like, you have to have the right removal at the right time to deal with all of these threats.
You mentioned to me earlier this weekend how in R&D you tested the Mono Black Zombies deck quite a lot.
Yes, during Shadows over Innistrad FFL, yes, I did. Yep.
And you helped in the creation of Crypt Breaker, which I think is really cool.
That's correct.
Can you tell me anything else about just your experience testing for, you know, kind of this format, or if anything cool came out of it?
Well, I mean, to be fair, the format was much different. It wasn't this specific format.
Right.
It was Shadows over Innistrad. So, like,
okay.
So it was like actually like
a little older.
Yeah, it was like Eldritch Moon standard. So it was like last year's standard. But I remember we were testing the zombie deck, and it was just missing some things. Like, it didn't have enough stuff to do early. And then, like, to compensate for that, we just try and figure out, like, what zombies we can either create or just, like, make a little stronger. So, for example, the 1-drop slot didn't have enough stuff in it. So that's why we made Crypt Breaker. And then the 2-drop slot, it was, like, missing something. So I remember, like, we made Relentless Dead a little bit different or just a little bit better, so you're more likely to play it. And I remember one card that actually got added at the very end in Eldritch Moon was Dark Salvation.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, that was, like, a late addition to Eldritch Moon to just beef up the zombie deck.
Have you ever found any decks in the Future League that haven't happened in Standard, and then you're just kind of like, well...
It actually happens all the time.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So, like FFL changes constantly. Cards change constantly. So cards actually just change daily. So, yeah, like, we have decks. Maybe things change sometime in the process. Decks get weaker, decks get stronger. But, yeah, it happens all the time because we actually just build
everything.
Hundreds of decks, right? Like, I build decks every day, and they're always different. So, yeah, like, we're definitely going to have decks that we don't see in the real world. Also, the real world will have decks that we don't see either.
Sure. There was a deck, I'm trying to remember the story of it, of why Siege Rhino has Trample.
Okay, so I wasn't there at the time.
Yeah,
but,
Ian
but
Duke told me
I know the story.
Yeah.
I know the story.
This one is cool.
So in the core set, which I think was M15 at the time, there was a card called, I believe, First Response.
Yes.
I could be wrong with the name.
That is what it's called because I made a lot of pregnancy test jokes about it.
Oh, of course. Of course you did. Right? So this card, at the time, it was like 3 mana or something, and it had whenever you lost life, make a 1/1, right? So every turn you can make a 1/1, flood the board with 1/1s, and Siege Rhino didn't have trample, so it was just not very effective against these 1/1s. So trample was added like as a response to first response.
So interesting. And then the first response deck just never happened.
Yeah, that's because the first response deck was just, from what I was told, not a super fun deck. It's just like not fun to just have tokens every turn. Enchantments are harder to deal with than things like creatures. So the card got a little weaker, and then after that just didn't see play. But trample never got removed from Siege Rhino, of course.
Yeah. And that's the Siege Rhino we know and either love or hate today, depending on who you are.
You will never feel medium about that card.
Nobody's like,
that card's fine. No, never. You either love or hate it.
I think that's good, though. You know, you want cards to evoke an emotional reaction in people.
Yes.
All right, let's peek in here. Corey Baumeister on Black-Green Constrictor. Marty Vehicles piloted by Ray Huang. Oath of Nissa. For Corey, finds a forest.
I wonder if he wants a forest. Looks like he already has forest in hand.
He does. Walking Ballista for 1 here for Corey. Ray currently up a game.
Walking Ballista for 1 matches up pretty poorly against Ray's hand. Ray has a Scrap Heap Scrounger and a Pianalar in hand.
And
I also see that Sky Sovereign.
Woohoo!
Man, that Sky Sovereign, that card is the card of the weekend.
Oh, yeah?
I think so. It might
Sky Sovereign?
That card is such a beating.
It is. I mean, it just does 6 and also 3.
It does, like, way more than that, right? It does 3, then it does 3 again, and then it does 6.
Scrap Heap Scrounger for Ray. I'm taking a peek there at Corey's hand.
Looks like Corey has a Nissa.
I want to say I saw a Fatal Push. He's just going to play this Catacomb Sifter, though.
Catacomb Sifter, another tech card for the weekend. Very good against the mono red decks. So basically, both of these players are playing cards that are 3 mana, 2 creatures. Ray has Pianalar, Corey has Catacomb Sifter, just for these mono red decks.
All right, well, our main match is back underway, so let's head back over to our head table here. Already a couple of turns in. Earthshaker Kenra in play for Matt. Also a Falconwrath Gorger is going to hit the red zone along with that Kenra. Kari Zev is the follow-up play. Relentless Dead already in the graveyard for Steve, thanks to a shock there from Matt.
Wow, what a draw by Matt. He had 2 1-mana spells, 2 2-mana spells. He is making great use of his mana this game. 4 spells by turn 3.
Yeah, Dark Salvation there for 1. It's going to take out the Falconwrath Gorger.
Pretty nice answer as a 2 for 1. Get a monkey.
All right. Kenra is going to be blocked by that zombie token. Steve will take 3. Another Sunscorched Desert for Matt, and a Pianalar is coming along with a Thopter. And Matt emptying his hand there with a Soulscar Mage.
Wow. Steve is in a lot of trouble.
Boom. How about all of these?
I wonder if Matt sided in his Sweltering Suns.
That's a great question. You mentioned it would be very strong.
I thought it would be strong. It's obviously terrible against this board.
Well, I mean, you can always cycle it. Look.
But in theory, the zombie deck just floods the board, and the red deck can't really get through because the zombies are probably 3/3s, thanks to Lords or Liliana's Mastery.
I see a Fatal Push pulled to the front of Steve Locke's hand. I believe he's also holding a Liliana's Mastery, which he, at the moment, cannot cast.
Yeah, Steve's in a lot of trouble. He needs to just play 2 spells a turn for the rest of the game to catch up, and being at 7 life, I think that's very unlikely.
Diregraph Colossus will be the play here, entering with a counter. Passes the turn back.
He's going to have to Fatal Push
mana.
Before combat. Otherwise, Kari Zev will make a monkey. So let's see if Matt drew a haste creature. Did he draw
Is there
a
a Hazoret in his future?
Oh, he drew on Incendiary Flow. I think he doesn't want to go to combat yet, because I'm pretty sure Steve wants to play that Fatal Push before combat.
There's a look at Incendiary Flow. Pretty flexible card. 3 damage to either a creature or the player.
And the exile is very relevant.
Very relevant.
Relentless Dead, Champion of Wits, Earthshaker Kenra, Scrap Heap Scrounger, probably the most important card to exile.
All right, the team comes in, and that will do it as the Thopter gets pumped up. Matt, Sikkink, Johnson evening things up here at 1 game apiece here in the semifinals of Grand Prix Minneapolis. Wow, that was exactly how Ramunap Red drew it up.
Yeah, he drew really well that game.
Players going to go back into the tank for a little bit as they think about sideboarding decisions again.
So what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe not, because we're in a new match.
Okay.
But what I was going to say was, since Matt is going to be on the draw in the next game, Sweltering Suns is a really appealing card for him to bring in.
All right, let's take a peek here. Ray Wang versus Corey Baumeister. 17-19.
Okay, so this is the match where I think Mardu Vehicles is favored, but right now it looks like Corey is in the driver's seat this game. He has a Planeswalker, he has a Catacomb Sifter, and a 1/1 with counters.
Just a Pia Nalar on the table for Ray.
I do see that Sky Sovereign in Ray's hand, though.
Is it time? Time to get in the boat?
Maybe. He has to draw land.
Yeah.
One thing that's difficult for 3-color aggro decks is mana. You have Ether Hub, which is like a one-shot for any mana you want. You also have Spire of Industry. And in this deck, Spire of Industry is like pretty much like a City of Brass or a Mana Confluence. It's just it's usually on. But besides that, you're relying on things like dual lands. So the mana base is pretty shaky, and it looks like he might have a hard time casting that Chandra in his hand, especially if he needs to use that Ether Hub for colored mana.
Well, he did manage to find a 5th land here. Shambling Vents. Not going to allow him to shoot anything out of the sky or the ground this turn.
All right, so there's the Chandra.
Chandra will come into play.
Chandra taking up to kill the Planeswalker.
Nissa down.
He also had the option to deal damage to the Sylvan Advocate, which is definitely something you should consider, because once Corey draws one more land,
there we go.
It'll just be a 4/5. It might be like way too hard to deal with.
Ray currently up a game over Corey.
Another card that's really strong against this deck, against black-green, is Unlicensed Disintegration.
Yeah, we were watching some games earlier this weekend, and somebody just plays an Unlicensed Disintegration. We thought, oh yeah, that card.
That card still exists, yep.
Still exists. Still great.
Yeah, like, great against this deck, because this deck plays Planeswalkers, so you can usually just kill a giant guy, also hit a Planeswalker.
All right, so we've got a Hissing Quagmire activation here from Corey, getting a bonus.
And this guy is huge, thanks to Sylvan Advocate.
Sylvan Advocate, giving out +2/+2, like it's a holiday.
So it looks like Corey is sending the Sylvan Advocate at Ray and the other creatures at Chandra. So if Ray wants to keep his Chandra around, his best block is probably P and Alar against the token, which is not a great trade, but it is a way for him to keep Chandra.
Green-black, definitely a deck that a lot of people expected coming into the tournament this weekend, as it matches up favorably against Ramunap Red. The deck of the day, if you will, from the Pro Tour.
The deck of the day.
Now, today, I don't think I would call it the deck of the day, unless we manage to get a winner with it.
Oh, he decided to block the Hissing Quagmire. That's interesting. Maybe he wants to down-tick Chandra to kill something.
Corey passing the turn back over to Ray. Ether Sphere Harvester in hand as well as a Sky Sovereign.
Oh, I think I know what he's going to do. Yeah, okay. This is what I thought he was going to do. Ping the Sylvan Advocate and then finish it off with the Sky Sovereign.
Sylvan Advocate goes down. Only a Sky Sovereign in play for Ray.
So a play that Corey could have made last turn after Ray blocked. So after Ray blocked, Corey could have said, oh, you know, Chandra, he blocked like this, meaning he values Chandra very highly. He probably wants to use Chandra to kill off one of my things.
Sure.
So maybe I should ping it with Walking Ballista so he can't get that use out of it. You know, because if Chandra has one less loyalty, it wouldn't be able to down-tick to kill something, and instead can only up-tick.
And here we see another Sylvan Advocate from Corey Baumeister, once again pumping up that Hissing Quagmire. No blocks for Ray, plunging him down to 6 life. Yeah, he did a lot of work to get rid of that.
Need a lot to come back from this game. He has a Scrap Heap Scrounger in hand, does not do anything, can't block. He has a land that comes into play tapped.
And an Ether Sphere Harvester.
Yeah, I guess the Ether Sphere Harvester can do something because he has a Scrap Heap to crew it, but doesn't do a whole lot against a 4/4 Death Toucher.
No. There's a look at the Harvester, a card that kind of broke apart the red mirror matches at the Pro Tour because of its lifelink.
Yeah, this card is just super strong. 3/5 for 3. You only need 1 creature to turn it on.
It's definitely a card you might want to pick up if you head over to the vehicle lot on Kaladesh.
Is that another Sylvan Advocate?
It sure is.
Wow, this Hissing Quagmire is a 6/6.
Wow. Yeah, Ray just not any good options here.
Yeah, I believe this is a lethal attack. He can return the Scrap Heap Scrounger from the graveyard, crew the Sky Sovereign. The Sky Sovereign can block the 6/6 Hissing Quagmire, and he's still taking 7 damage.
Yeah, here comes back the Scrounger, who's going to jump in the ship. Gain Ray 3 life.
Okay, so yeah, he can gain the life and survive, but he did have to throw away his Harvester.
Yeah, this situation looks really bad for Ray right now.
Ray needs a sweeper. Does he have Fumigate?
Let's take a peek.
Oh, no, he has no sweepers. He has no live draws here.
Corey adding up the damage there. Says go.
Does he have a Shambling Vent that might be able to help?
No Shambling Vent. Or, yes, 1 Shambling Vent currently in play. 2.
I still
but he's
don't
just
think it
gonna,
helps.
yeah, he's just going to scoop him up. It's not enough. Corey Baumeister evening things up. Both of our semifinals going to game 3. Let's take a look at our players' hands here.
It looks like that's a 1 land hand.
No,
it's a
no,
2 land
it's 2 land hand
yep,
for Matt.
That's a Sunscorched Desert.
He did mulligan to 6, scrying to the bottom. Steve Locke on the play. Kicking things off with the Swamp, has 2 more in hand.
Looks like this is a Relentless Dead.
Yep. Gonna get shocked. Another copy of Shock there for Matt. Sunscorched Desert will ping Steve for 1.
Yeah, Shock is exactly what Matt wants to see against all these 2/2s. Got to keep the board clear.
Oh, he has a Chandra.
Let's see if he has the Incendiary Flow for this Relentless Dead. And he has it.
Sure enough. No 3rd land, though. Red deck doesn't need a lot of lands, but it does need some, especially when you draw a Chandra. Incendiary Flows, Exile Claws, been extraordinarily important this weekend.
This was another card that we made based on what FFL needed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so zombie deck, Relentless Dead, just graveyard stuff from Shadows over Innistrad block. So this card is kind of a safeguard against, in case Relentless Dead turned out to be stronger than we had thought.
A Braid will take down the Diregraph Colossus, and this is looking a lot like how our game 1 looked here between Matt and Steve, with Matt just on the defensive, having to deal with Steve's threats again and again. I know he's got an on-crop Crasher here, and it is going to come crashing in for 3.
This deck just plays so many haste creatures. It's so hard to play defensively against the red deck when nothing can block and everything has haste.
Dark Salvation will make a zombie, take down the Crop Crasher, get in for 2 with the Dread Wanderer. All right, 4th land there.
Chandra is not even great here.
Yeah. You can see that kind of sigh.
Yeah, I don't think he plays Chandra here. It looks like he has Shock and another removal spell or an Earthshaker Kendra, so like maybe you just go Shock Earthshaker Kendra.
All right, he is going to end up playing the Chandra.
Plus for mana, Shock. Okay, that seems reasonable to me. And like now the Chandra can just start accruing value by getting cards off the top of the deck. Looks like that draw was a Diregraph Colossus.
There's a Never to Return in Steve's hand as well.
Does he care about the Chandra enough to never return it? I don't think so. He can attack Chandra and then just add stuff to his board. And then Matt can decide if he wants to just down-tick Chandra, which will kill the Chandra to kill a creature.
And he does care enough. Chandra hits the bin. In comes the Dread Wanderer for another 2. Earthshaker Kenra, the draw there for Matt.
And he has another Chandra.
Oh, another Chandra.
Oh, wow. Maybe you just play the other Chandra here and just kill the Dread Wanderer.
Yeah, it looks
it's
like
not vulnerable to anything.
Another a Braid and a Kenra in hand for Matt. Interesting.
Yeah, I think you just Chandra or kill Dread Wanderer here. I can also see upticking, but I think I would prefer to just kill the Chandra. I mean, sorry, kill the Dread Wanderer.
He will use mana to abrade the Dread Wanderer in this case. 1 card left in hand for Matt. A bunch for Steve.
Looks like Steve drew a 5th land, which will allow him to play Liliana's Mastery, which is a really hard card for Matt to deal with. Adds 2 things to the board. He can't remove the Mastery at all.
Yeah, this is definitely not the position that Ramunap Red wants to be in, which is just having to constantly react to what your opponent is doing without attacking their life total.
Sure enough, here comes Liliana's Mastery.
A land off the top here for Matt. Chandra will go up.
Oh, Pia-Nalar's not bad. It's not great, but it's also not bad.
And Earthshaker Kenra. What does Pia-Nalar get Matt here in this situation?
Well, it makes an evasive attacker, which you need against zombies. And this, like, if Matt draws a land, for example, he can attack for 3 a turn. Although he's not winning this race.
Right.
The other thing he can do is he can just trade with a zombie with the Thopter by pumping it a bunch of times. So, doesn't do a lot, but against zombies you definitely need things that are evasive, and Mono Red has things like Menace and not really so much flying, so this Thopter can help a lot.
Looks like a Diregraph Colossus and a Scavenger Grounds. Maybe a Dark Salvation in hand for Steve.
Dark Salvation would be amazing here. Looks like these zombies are going after Chandra. I don't think it makes sense to go after Matt's face in this position. So now Matt has to figure out how important is this Chandra.
Do you think she's worth protecting?
So I think for Matt to stay in this game, he needs to uptick Chandra and just draw cards with it every turn. Just uptick Chandra, reveal the right card, like reveal an Incendiary Flow or something, cast it, and like all while still like having relevant draws. So yeah, I do think it's valuable. I don't think you need to just, I don't think it needs to stay on 6. I think you can have it go to 3 and be fine. But it looks like Matt really wants to keep this Chandra on 6 loyalty.
All right, so a bunch of creatures lost in the fight there for Matt. A Thopter, Pia Nalar, Earthshaker Kenra. So
Steve has a Diregraph Colossus, and that thing is going to come down pretty big. I believe it's going to be a 5/5, if I'm looking at the graveyard correctly. So let's see what Steve decides to do here.
Scavenger Grounds, Diregraph Colossus, make it enormous.
So Scavenger Grounds actually relevant here.
It is.
Because it can remove the Earthshaker Kenra.
I was kind of wondering how big a role that card was going to play in a matchup like this.
I think it plays like a 0 role, but just here it could be useful. It's definitely something that Matt needs to consider. If he draws a 6 land or something, he might want to just reanimate this Earthshaker Kenra because there is a threat that it could just leave the graveyard at any moment.
Chandra goes up.
All right, 2 damage. Not very significant.
No.
Ooh, what did he draw? Did he draw nothing? He must have drawn.
Passed.
He must have drawn Shock or something. That Never Return can also remove Earthshaker Kenra.
That's true. We're not quite sure how these players sideboarded. Sweltering Suns is in Matt's sideboard, though.
Yes, he's playing 3 Sweltering Suns in the sideboard. I would think that he would bring it in this matchup, especially when he's on the draw and could fall behind.
In comes Zombie Token, Dread Wanderer, and Diregraph Colossus.
Yeah, so Steve just wants to get that Chandra out of there because he probably realizes the only way that Matt can come back in this game is if Chandra just draws a card every turn.
Another zombie getting made there with the exile of Earthshaker Kendra. Dread Wanderer comes back along with another zombie. And this is just not a good situation for Matt.
Yeah, it looks like... Oh, he drew a Glorybringer. Too little, too late, though.
Oh.
Like, great draw, great card in the matchup, but Steve just has too much stuff.
It is going to attack and exert, taking out a zombie token with it.
So now Steve doesn't even have to worry about this Glorybringer next turn because it's exerted, so he can just get in there with everything.
And there is the handshake. Steve Locke advancing to the finals of Grand Prix Minneapolis as the first seed in the tournament on Mono Black Zombies, a deck we expected to be fantastic this weekend. And in the hands of Steve Locke, it certainly has been. There you get a look at Matt as well, kind of talking over the match with his opponent, which is nice to see. We have an update, too, from our Table B. Corey Baumeister won in 3 games. Green-Black will advance to face Mono Black Zombies coming up after these messages.